Jared here with carbuzz.com, and if you want to know what the best selling luxury three-row crossover of all time is, it's the Acura MDX. I've got a 2019 model sitting behind me. We've got the A-Spec, which is new for 2019. The MDX in its third generation now is a pretty handsome looking SUV. I like what Acura has done with the bejeweled headlights, very similar to the ones you'll also get on the NSX supercar. And I like the new shield grille that they have now. It's a lot better than the beak that they were doing just a few years ago. So we're gonna find out today if the MDX is still the king of the three-row crossovers when we get it out on the road. Now, if you want to know more deals on the Acura MDX, be sure to click the link in the description below to a link to carbuzz.com. Now let's get the MDX out on the road. So if you're going to be in the market for a luxury midsize crossover like this, how it drives might be pretty important to you. So let's get behind the wheel of this 2019 MDX A-Spec. So the one we've been sent here has the 3.5 liter VTEC V6. I'll get a little bit more into that later. Basically, it's mated to a 9-speed automatic, and it's going to produce 290 horsepower and 267 foot-pounds of torque. Your fuel economy is going to be okay, 19 city, 25 on the highway, 21 combined. 0 to 60 is going to take 6.3 seconds with around a 4,800 pound curb weight. We also have the Shaoud, as I like to call it. Acura doesn't like it when I call it that, but it's super handling all-wheel drive. One of the best systems around, actually. So basically what that does is it's a little different than other all-wheel drive systems because it can torque vector. So what that means is I'm about to go around a corner, and when I put my foot on the gas, what it can actually do is it can send more power to the outside wheel. So in this case, it's the right wheel. So I'm going to go ahead and put my power down out of the corner, and I can see on this little helper display that my power was being sent a little more to that outside wheel than the inside to help get me around the corner. This is the same type of technology that you'll get in the NSX supercar, albeit at a much lower level. Acura likes to claim on their commercials that like this car has like a lot of the same stuff as the NSX. True, but take that with a grain of salt. But it is a pretty good all-wheel drive system. There's also a sport hybrid version of this car. I would definitely look into that. I haven't tested it, but that also has a 3-liter V6, but it's mated to a 7-speed dual clutch instead, and it's actually the most powerful MDX variant you can get. 321 horsepower and 289 foot-pounds of torque. That extra power comes from 2 additional rear motors that sit on each rear wheel, each providing 36 horsepower. So your 0 to 60 is going to drop to 5.7 seconds, and your fuel economy is going to improve to 26 in the city, 27 on the highway and combined. So that is definitely the option you want if you want the quickest and most fuel efficient MDX. But how does this one, the base V6, drive? So we've got a tale of 2 stories here. Although this thing looks like a marshmallow, especially painted in white as this one is, it doesn't really drive like a marshmallow. We've got the A-Spec package, which costs $3,500. You're going to get a perforated steering wheel, these Alcantara seats that are pretty nice. They're heated and ventilated. You're going to get these red gauges, which look sweet at night, paddle shifters that are in chrome, gloss black trim, a lot of badging, 20-inch wheels, dual exhaust. I don't know if it really makes the suspension all that much stiffer, but the ride comfort is good, but not amazing. If you're entering this trying to find like the most comfortable, soft, suave SUV as possible, this definitely isn't it. It's a little firm, not too firm to make your daily commute uncomfortable, but definitely enough that you feel little bits of the road. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the transmission into its sport setting. We have a lot of drive modes I wanna talk about here. Let's go ahead and floor it. Ooh, yes. See, now that is butter. This is Honda's bread and butter right here. I'm really sad to say that Honda doesn't make a lot of V6s anymore. You can no longer get a V6 in the Accord, and that just makes me sad because, oh, it sounds so sweet. It revs to like 7,000. Oh, it's a screamer. It really likes to produce its power really high up in the rev band. If they made like just a coupe or something with like a manual transmission in this engine, I would be very, very happy with this motor. This is one of my favorite motors that I've driven recently in terms of V6 engines. But The 9-speed automatic that it's mated to is not so much my favorite. So I said there's a sport mode that's handled on the little shifter here with PRND, and then you push the D button again to get your S mode. It really holds gears for like a long time. Like a surprisingly long time. I was not expecting that from like a 3-row crossover. It holds gears almost like a supercar. Sort of weird. And I've driven a lot of sports cars that I wish their sport mode actually held gears like this. So that's pretty interesting. Then there's a separate button independent of the transmission settings. It's called dynamic mode. So you can set that to one of comfort, normal, or sport. I was in normal just now. Comfort will basically make the throttle a little bit less aggressive, lighten up the steering. And then if I push it again to go into sport mode, now I've got my heaviest steering. I've got the throttle, very willing to respond. The transmission, when it's working in its automatic mode, is fine. Most of the time, shifts are pretty good, but every once in a while, it'll hold a gear a little too long, and I wish it would shift. Kind of odd. I'm not sure with the tuning. When you get on it on the manual mode, not that you're really going to ever shift your 3-row luxury crossover very often manually, but when you do that, shifts happen a little slowly. It's not on the level of like BMW's 8-speed or even like a dual clutch. Definitely, you can hear I pull the paddles and the shift sometimes doesn't really happen very quickly. So in terms of driving, the steering's fine, ride's good, acceleration is pretty good as well. The transmission is probably the biggest letdown here. We do have a ton of safety features as part of Acura Watch. So Acura Watch is the standard safety suite. We've got adaptive cruise control, collision mitigation, forward collision warning, lane departure warning, and lane keep assist. Those are all pretty good. They all work really well. If I turn on the steering assist here, it will hold me in my lane pretty well. You can see I was about to go off the road. The wheel turned a little bit there, and it does do pretty well in the turns. Eventually, it'll tell me to put my hands back on the wheel, but Honda and Acura have been doing a pretty good job in terms of these safety features here. So the A-Spec package is basically what's going to change most of the driving for this car. It's mostly an aesthetic package, and Acura even says that. We've also got the tech package for $5,000. That gives us the navigation, ELS audio, parking sensors, blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic, the remote engine start, which is great because it's been like 100 degrees here in Florida lately, the smart key, rain sensing wipers, and power folding mirrors. So that's a good package as well. I definitely would like to try out the advanced package. That's something we don't have. It's $6,700. It's the most expensive of all the packages, but you get a lot, including the active damper system. So that's like the adaptive suspension. I'd really like to try that out because this base suspension just isn't as comfortable as I'd like it to be. Although if you like a little bit more of a firm ride, you'll probably enjoy how the MDX drives. So driving, it gets a pretty good marks except for the transmission, but now we're going to pull over and check out the interior because Acura, I just don't even know what they were thinking. Let's go ahead and check that out. As part of the A-Spec package, we've got these really cool looking gauges. They kind of remind me of what you used to get on like a TL Type S or an RSX Type S. Very cool. They look even better at night. You have a simple helper screen here. I have it showing the Shaood system with where the power is going in relation to each wheel. You can have it show map information, oil life, tire pressure, vehicle settings, average fuel economy, and your range. Pretty simple there. You've got all of your driver assist features here with the adaptive cruise control and lane keep assist. Those are controlled via buttons on the steering wheel. So when we get to the steering wheel, that is also changed because we've got this perforated leather as part of the A-Spec package. I like the feel of the steering wheel, the shape. It reminds me a little bit of the NSX, although it doesn't feel quite as nice in hand. This leather, the perforation, is just not on the same quality as like Audi. Their leather is just much nicer. It feels really hard plastic. I don't even know if it's real leather. It kind of just feels like something you would get on a rental car, but the controls are all pretty easy. I'm pretty sure that these are actually the same controls that you would get on the NSX supercar. You do have a little A-Spec badge here to let you know that you are driving a slightly nicer MDX, and you do have chrome covered paddle shifters as well. Moving over here to the infotainment system is where I think Acura has made the biggest mess up. So Acura has been like toying with a bunch of different styles for its infotainment. You actually, if you get an RDX, you'll have like a new touchpad thing. It's kind of like Lexus's system, only a little bit better. This is one of their more dated systems, and boy, oh boy, is it dated. So you've got this upper screen here. Everything's split into two screens for reasons I just don't understand. This map is terrible quality. Honestly, I think it looks like it came out of 2002. The dot pitch is terrible. It's just very low resolution. This is where you're also going to get all of your phone settings. You can see I'm controlling all of this through this little rotating knob. You can't actually touch this. So I don't love the way this works. You can either kick this or you can spin it, and then you go to like actually select something. So if I go to phone and I go to text or email, I go to push it, and then it doesn't push. It's because the center button is what you actually have to push, which is just like really weird, and I just don't understand this. It's really infuriating. You do see a smartphone button here, which is helpful. That means you can get Android Auto and Apple CarPlay to replace this abysmal map. But I want to point something out, because for whatever reason, I have my cable, I have my Android smartphone, and when I plug it in here, that's what's happening. Unsolvable. I've tried other phones, I've tried other cables, but this is what happens. I get a message, unable to connect to your device. So although this car does have Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, I have not been able to get either to work. Now on this lower screen, that's where you're going to be controlling your audio and your climate. I don't know why one screen does one and the other does one, whatever. The audio is fine. It's easy to navigate source, but it is like a pretty old feeling touchscreen. You can't actually like scroll on it. You have to like push these buttons to kind of go up and down. The climate controls are infuriating, because although you have physical controls here to turn it on and off, on auto, and for the temperature, to like adjust the fan, you have to either have toothpick fingers, which I do not. So see these little arrow keys? If you can push those gently and delicately, you can increase or decrease the fan speed. They do pull up this separate menu so you can actually like hit it with your hand-fisted fingers like me, but I don't want to pull up a separate menu to adjust the fan speed. I just want there to be a fan speed button. Why is that so complicated? So yeah, this is really infuriating. To turn on the heated and ventilated seats, that's also handled on the screen. I don't feel like the cooled seats actually do much. I have them on now, and it's been really hot in Florida. They work a little bit, and they're pretty loud, but they don't feel that strong compared to others that I've tested. And I'd like to give Acura one compliment here. So when we get down like the whole storage area, you've got your shifter, P, RND, this weird push button controller. There's the dynamic mode button I was telling you about. You've got your two cup holders here, pretty easy to just put stuff there. You've got this little tiny storage area, good for fitting a garage door opener. This area is really smart. So it looks just like a flat area where your phone would go flying off, but they've put on these little rubber grips. So if you lay your phone down there, it'll just stick, which is really smart on Acura's part. You do have this center console here that slides, which is really nice. So you can have your arm up a little bit further. And if you open it, you have a little bit of storage space here. Then if you pull the second tab, it opens up again, but now it leads to much deeper storage, and I can slide back that little tray if I don't want it there. Hello down there! It's huge. It's gigantic space. You've got your USB to plug in for Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, if you can get it to work. I couldn't. You've got another 12-volt outlet, your aux jack, and then two additional charging USBs. And while I'm here, I want to talk a little bit about this leather. We've got the red with black Alcantara. Looks nice, but there's something in my seat that's broken, and it's infuriating. Like every time I lean up against it, I feel it like nudging. Yeah, so this car only has about 9,000 miles on it, but something is definitely broken in this seat. Not high marks on Acura for build quality there. And also this door panel is just really not fastened down that well. It feels incredibly cheap for a car that costs over $54,000. Now let's go ahead and check out the back seat, which is pretty good. So I'm out filming the Acura MDX, and Kelso, you want to show them a problem we found?
Yeah, look at this.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, Acura, their fit and finish isn't kind of what it used to be. It's a little upsetting.
I mean, just trying to open the door, close the door and open.
Yeah, the seat also does the same thing, and so does that door panel. So I've discovered a number of issues. This car has 9,000 miles on it. It may not stand up to your kids. All right, so the second row of the MDX is a pretty nice place to sit. I have the seat in its furthest position. It does slide forward and back. In its most forward position, I don't have a lot of knee room at all, but in its most back position, I have tons. Basically, you're going to have to decide between whether you want the third row occupants to be comfortable or you want the second row to be comfortable. You can't really have it both ways. This isn't that big of a car. We do have climate controls back here with 2 air vents. We can control the temperature and the fan speed back here, which is pretty nice. The kids are going to enjoy that, although there is no climate control back there in the third row. There's not even any vents, which is kind of weird. We do also have 2 charging USB ports back here, so 2 of the kids will be able to charge their devices. We have a simple armrest here. It's a little bit weird that these seats are sort of asymmetrical in color because it kind of ends black here and starts red. I'll show you a little bit about that when we get to the tailgate, but for now, let's go ahead and check out that third row. The only other thing I wish we had back here is a panoramic sunroof. It's just a basic one on here. All right, so back in the third row of the MDX, not a whole lot of legroom, but pretty decent. 30.9 inches is what you're gonna get. It's pretty comparable to a lot of the other cars in this segment. Basically, if you slide up this front seat a little more, you will have more legroom back here. As it sits, my knees are touching, but getting out of it is extremely easy. There's just this little button right here, and as you saw, the seat just ejects, and it makes it really easy to get in and out of the third row. But unfortunately, when you do have these third row seats installed, you don't have that much behind them in terms of storage space. Coming back to the trunk, this is a pretty important area when you're buying a mid-size 3-row crossover. Trunk space is going to be okay depending on how you have the seats configured. 68 cubic feet is what you're gonna have with all 2 rows folded. If you have the second row, that shrinks to 38 cubic feet, and if you have the third row up, you only have 15 cubic feet of storage back here. Acura does make it up to you though, because there is this little storage area here that does stay up, so you can load some secret stuff into here. That's pretty nice. I do like that. The third row is not powered. The only way to adjust it are with these little handles here, so you have to pull it. That'll drop down the headrest, and you can throw it forward. You can do the same on the other side, so I can give you a good look at what the storage looks like without the third row engaged. I kind of wish they were powered on a button. I have seen a lot of mainstream cars go that route. Now, if you want to fold down the second row, I'm gonna have to come all the way over here now. There's no good way to do it from the third row that I've found easily. So the way that you're gonna fold that down is using the same adjustment to recline the rear seats. They do fold down pretty easily, except as you can see, this one just got stuck here because the second row is in its exit and entry position. When that seat is slid up forward, you shouldn't really have any problems with the seat folding down. Now you have a ton of storage space that works pretty well. So now let's go ahead and price out our 2019 MDX A-Spec with the super handling all-wheel drive. All right, so it's time to price out our Acura MDX A-Spec with the super handling all-wheel drive. So a base front-wheel drive MDX is going to start at $44,300. Add $2,000 to that if you want the super handling all-wheel drive. We have the A-Spec package that's going to make it look a lot sportier for $3,500. We have the technology package for $5,000. That's going to get you a lot of good stuff. You might also want to consider the entertainment package for $2,000. That gets you a screen in the rear so the kids can watch their movies. With wireless headphones, you get an 11th speaker, and you do get captain's chairs and rear sunshades as well as part of that package. And then there's the advanced package for $6,750, which our car also didn't have. You get body-colored lower sills, active dampers, wider wheels, extended wood trim, heated and ventilated Milano leather seats. You get the captain's chairs as part of this package as well. You also get 2 additional USBs and those second-row sunshades, as well as a heated steering wheel and a surround view camera that our car did not have. The difference between the all-wheel drive version and the sport hybrid all-wheel drive version is only about $1,000, so I would definitely consider looking at the hybrid model if you want more power and better efficiency. So now that we've driven the MDX, I've showed you in and out of it, third row seat, all of that's good stuff. let's go ahead and give it a car buzz ranking. Now, although the MDX has been the three-row midsize crossover sales king in the luxury segment, this one has just missed the mark for me. There's too many quality issues on the inside with squeaking door trim that I've found in certain spots. The transmission is not my favorite, although that engine is glorious. I don't think it's going to be around too much longer as we start shying away from V6s into more turbocharged four-cylinder power plants. So I just think there are more three-row crossovers that I'd recommend over the MDX. The Kia Telluride springs to mind. That thing really punches above its weight class. And then even Honda's own Pilot, which is going to be a lot more expensive and affordable than this MDX. I don't see why you would need to upgrade unless you just really like this A-Spec package and how the MDX looks, because I will give Acura that. The MDX is a far more handsome looking car than the Pilot, but it's still only going to earn a score of shop around. I think you should probably look at other three-row crossovers until this gets a significant refresh. And if you've liked this video and you'd like to see more, subscribe to the Car Buzz YouTube channel and download our apps on iOS and Android. That's where all of our latest content lives. You can keep up with all of the latest automotive reveals and to see more reviews just like this one. I hope you've enjoyed the video. See you next time.